he got it to pretty much a 7-figure run rate completely on his own and one VA. So he was taking some time out, but then he came back with the fire back in him, even brighter than before. And then literally we went from 300 to 550 to about 850 to about 1.1 million, literally just 1 month at a time.
Yo, what's happening, people? Welcome back to Catch the Zenith. My guest today is David Morris. David Morris is a business coach, e-learning consultant, and chief operating officer. Most coaches struggle with client retention. They get stuck with unengaged students, low renewal rates, and flaky behavior they can't explain. David breaks it down. He's identified 6 client archetypes that make or break a program and build systems that raise retention rates to over 70%. Get ready to learn the 6 client types that shape your coaching business, how to turn bad clients into your top performers, what most coaches get wrong on day one, why content without outreach fails, what David learned working under online entrepreneur Richard Yu, how to build trust at scale, why boring work wins, how fatherhood changed his mindset, plus a lot more. And if you're new here, I'm Nicola, a 27-year-old entrepreneur, and on this podcast I share my mistakes, what I'm learning, and insights from the people I interview. Expect episodes on high performance and business. And as a thank you for tuning in, I spent 4 months putting together a curated list of the 100 plus most interesting and impactful podcast episodes I've ever listened to, all from other shows, not mine. You will also get my top 10 all-time favorites, plus my best picks on wealth, health, and relationships. Just click the link in the description to grab the list for free and get signed up to my newsletter as well. And now, ladies and gentlemen, enjoy the show. David, you worked at one of the presumably fastest growing coaching businesses in the US.
Mm-hmm.
What was your experience like at Impact Clients?
It was unbelievable. In many ways. I got to join the organization when it was still a decent operation for the kind of industry we're in. You know, if I'm transparent, we were hitting around 300 to 400K a month at that time, and we had a lot of clients coming in, and it was an amazing culture as well. So many people brought in so many unique skills and backgrounds, and I got to be one of the coaches to help them articulate that into a valuable business, not just for themselves, but for those that when they went on to serve. And that just lit my soul on fire. And I've now been in this space for about 5 years. But I got to watch Impact Clients grow from a couple hundred members and, a 3 to 5 million a year operation to an 8-figure operation with thousands of clients. And I got to learn a lot about leadership from the founder and CEO, because it was literally when I was hired, it was right around the time he was actually taking some chill time, because he had been hammering at this business for like 18 months flat out. He got it to pretty much a 7-figure run rate completely on his own and one VA. So he was taking some time out, well deserved. But then he came back with the fire back in him, even brighter than before. And then literally we went from 300 to 550 to about 850 to about 1.1 million, literally just 1 month at a time. And when you're working a business like that, you're working with, people who want to know, like, how's your results as a business? Like, how are you doing? And when you share your results, when you're growing that rapidly, you attract a lot of big talent. And so not only did the business scale, but the quantity of clients, but also the quality of clients and the experience of clients shot up as well. So we ended up, consulting people who were brand new to the space, wanted to get started, to people who were already at 300K, 800K, 1.5 million a month, wanting to learn how we are just pulling off, incredible numbers, and how have we been serving hundreds of people with various strategies. And so being part of that growth was insane. We got to celebrate that as a team in Austin, Texas. At the end of that year of major growth, we had an in-person mastermind. We had about 70 of the clients there. A lot of them were some of our biggest as well. And by the end of the next quarter, I was actually the lead account manager of the operation. So I got to work with the biggest clients and oversee all the other account managers. And it required a lot from me, but I didn't care. I was doing 78-hour work weeks, and I wasn't asked to. And sometimes I didn't even need to, but I was surrounded by business owners and working in the modern day. And I'd studied business management. I'd studied business management at university. And unfortunately, I didn't use any of it when I joined Impact Clients a couple of years after graduating. And I got a real business education there. And it was just, I became pretty obsessed with it. And it was an amazing experience. And I learned everything from how to work with great people and great leaders, how to deal with people who are maybe not so great, how to deal with businesses in all kinds of niches. I've worked in every niche you could imagine. People selling offers within, yeah, sure, make money, fitness, all the kind of classic ones, but also things like music. I worked with some amazing guys who would teach how to learn the piano without having to learn the sheet music, and kind of like learn by ear. Other guys who wanted to teach video games better, who did that so well, they actually got connected with professional teams and actually provided coaching that could lead to being a pro gamer. So it was a wild world that I got to enter into through the Impact Clients, and I've stuck with it since. And yeah, just the team as well I got to work with was phenomenal. And the clients, I got many great friendships out of it that I still connect with today. You're obviously one of them. So happy to always see your progress online. Even better when we get to connect like this. So yeah, and it really built up the foundation from everything I've done since. Just in terms of setting not just like the skills, because that's what you need in your career, really skills, and then match that with relationships. And that gave me so much of that. But just yeah, it just was a perfect storm, really. So yeah.
First of all, thank you for the kind words, David. It was a pleasure working with you back then, and
Yeah, 100%.
multiple things I want to go a little bit deeper in. The first one being, you said you worked with different clients. Some of them were like very interesting to work with. With some, it was a little bit harder. Maybe tell me
Yeah.
a story for each category that stuck with you.
Yeah. So I'll start with the bad ones, and then we can end on the good ones. The bad ones, there was a couple different types. There was the types where they let me down, where I went all out for them, gave them the plans, right? Made it very clear, the step by step, even broke it down to like what kind of daily commitments should they be doing on what activities, how much of them for what kind of goal we're going for. And then there would be follow through. And I might even go out of my way to text them, call them, like be in their ear, being like, look, like, is everything all right? Like, what's happening? But there was other times where I let them down, if I'm being honest, because we had rapid growth. So the kind of work experience I had really changed when I first joined to like those 4 or 5 months later. And the biggest thing that I learned to be better at serving people is understanding like, yeah, like we had great systems to teach people, but behind every system is skills. And yes, I can plug this into your business. I can give you these templates, these scripts. I can show you how to automate X, Y, Z, but I still have to train you as the entrepreneur. So yeah, your business name might be on the contract. We might have onboarded you and even met with some of your team members, but we still have to very much coach you because your business will never extend beyond you. Your business is downstream from you. So yeah, with everything, I got a lot of blessings out of it. For the ones who didn't follow through, I got to learn so much about what accountability means and all the different cool frameworks I've been able to work on since then. Because that's huge. That's huge when you work with people, accountability. And it's a fine art as well because it even taps into things like leadership and even just operations of how you lay things out for them. But in the bad clients, like sure, there was some which I could have done better on, right? Almost every time there's a fitting client relationship, there's something on both sides that didn't get covered the way it should have. Most of the time, that's actually uncomfortable conversations. It's like not having an understanding, the confidence, the willingness to have uncomfortable conversations of, Nicholas, this is the third time we're having to cover stuff together. So today we're not going to coach on your business. We're going to coach on our relationship because your business will flourish from that. And here's how we're going to cover those uncomfortable items today. Even learning to leverage things like uncomfortable pauses. So when you really address something that's uncomfortable, there's a peaceful moment to appreciate it for what it is and start thinking about how can we move beyond this. So yeah, like I'm generally a very positive person as well. So none of those experiences like scarred me or like I'm never going to work with that niche again or that coach again. Nothing like that. But that was like the worst of it as well. Like it was very like there was never somebody who was unhappy with the systems, which was great. It was just about finding a groove with them as an entrepreneur was probably the most nuanced part, and I had to get good at that. And luckily I did, and that reflected in my client retentions and the way that I leveled up to lead account manager and eventually operator. So that was good. And then the good clients, Um, I've gotten to the point now where I've actually got structures on like what student types you end up with inside of programs. There's about 3 really good types and then 3 really bad types. And with the 3 really bad types, they all need different uncomfortable conversations before they can even get a chance to switch into one of the good types. And I'd say for the good clients I had overall, most of them started out in that category, but the ones I'm proudest of are the ones who started out as bad students and became good students. So, and the good students, they're typically the ones I'm still in contact with today, but I will say that the ones that start off as bad students and turn to good students, like there's almost a deeper dynamic there because I've seen more transformation in them. I've
Okay.
seen them go from somebody who maybe had a bit of ego into the mix or who was resistant to leadership, and that change has been significant for their business. But then also it's meant that our relationship's been really cool because like, oh, David saw me when I was messing up this, or David caught me out when I tried sneaking this past him. So yeah, yeah, clients are wild, man. Clients are wild. Anyone who services clients know it's you know part-time coaching, part-time therapy. So
I found it interesting. You said there are 3 different categories of bad clients and 3 categories of good clients, right?
yeah.
Like, uh, by the way, I remember you you was very strongly holding us accountable, and I really loved it about your approach in coaching people. I remember
Mm,
we had like, I think it was a Facebook group, something like that, or Facebook
yes.
iMessage chat, whatever, and you was posting consistently videos and really taught like
Mm,
individually to each person, and you said, hey, that's your challenge, how's it going? And I really loved that about how you approached it. And maybe can you quickly share those 3 categories within,
yeah.
let's say, the
Yeah.
pillar of bad and good clients?
Yeah. Yeah. So you've got the 3 good clients where first and foremost you have the go-getter, which is like the client who just comes in, all they want is clarity and just what to do next. They'll do the work, they won't BS you, they communicate as well. It's the perfect client. You want everyone to have the potential, you want to make sure anyone you bring in at least has the potential of being a go-getter, right? The next one down is someone who's situationally stuck. So they can have, you know, features of a go-getter, but they literally just have life demands where their capacity to go all in is just limited. It could be work, it could be, you know, relationships, it could be personal demands. Um, yeah, it's someone who's just unfortunately limited by life. Those people, yes, they still need the clarity of a go-getter, especially if they're showing that. But if they're not quite showing that yet, they need stuff to be broken down into tiny chunks, just tiny chunks, so that whenever they do have that chance to kind of commit to you, they're not they can do so, and it's very actionable. So those are the top 2. Those are the 2 you want, right? The last one that you've got, I've actually got my list right here because I want to share with you not just the types, but off the top of my head, I also have protocols on how to handle these guys as well. So to make this super valuable, I actually want to quickly pull this up because here we go. Knowing what these people are is one thing, but then here we go. But then actually having them, here we go. Yeah, so go-getters, like I said, they just need the clarity, right? The situation is stuck, they just need breakdowns. The third type of student type you get, I call them lone wolves. So these are the people who they come in and they do have elements of coaching, but they trust themselves more than the coaching itself. So these people are typically quite smart and they're experienced. That's why they have this air of I prefer my own expertise, I prefer my own way of doing it, right? So they haven't really submitted to the coaching process, right? But they're still smart, they're still capable. So they're not far off of being like a great productive student. So I typically keep them in that category because typically those people just need to be labeled. You just need to tell them like, look, you're like trailing behind the pack trying to do this on your own where you have so much more potential if you just joined the pack, right? And sometimes just that little mindset shift of like, you have everything you need. You've got the intellect, you've got the grit, you've got the experience, but your own past is stopping you from the future if you just hop in with us. And sometimes just that little mindset shift is everything they need. And those are the 3 best people you want to be dealing with. Because the great thing about a lone wolf is that they're still coachable. Like they still have shown up, they still invested. They just, whenever they get coached, they want to try, reframe or re-engineer the ideas into something that makes it feel their own. And sometimes that's fine, to be honest. But there has to be that uncomfortable conversation where the key thing is the key protocol, you need to label them. They need to know that you've kind of got them. Like you see what they're doing, right? You're not letting it slip. And you also call them out. You kind of just like make them realize you've got so much more potential in you. They want to hear those people, clients want to hear those words. Clients want to hear the word that you've got so much more potential in you, right? Now, there's then the 3 unproductive types, okay? You first have flakers, who are the negative version of someone who's situationally stuck. So they might make up their own stuckness, right? And they might show up, they might like beg you for the breakdown of, just making things really simple and step by step. But then when it actually comes down to it, they might commit in short bursts and then disappear, or they might even just commit to very, very shallow efforts. Either way, they're flaking the process, right? Honestly, this is just a form of self-sabotage, right? And typically with that kind of avatar, it's somebody who just needs a bit more discipline, right? And so the line I always go to when dealing with flakers is like, stop right here. Nothing counts in this program, in our coaching relationship from this moment onward, unless it makes you uncomfortable or if you feel like the reps of work you're putting in hurt. It's like that kind of like old gym adage, right? Like the reps don't count until they hurt. So I make that a condition. So the protocol of dealing with flakers is you put conditions on them. It's almost as if their own standards of work, right, do not even reach the level of where their work is effective. So you give them new conditions. And that typically is the reps don't count until they hurt, right? I've literally sat on coaching calls with coaches and looked at them and gone, I could steal your business in 3 months. You hardly post, you don't even talk to your followers, you don't even really try on sales calls. I'm just going to copy all your content over the next 90 days, DM all your followers, put them onto my sales calls and close them myself. And you have a business in 90 days from now. Because your conditions of work are below just the opportunity. So flakers need conditions, right? Now, then you have, yeah. So then you have the drowning. The drowning are quite like the flakers, where they will find everything overwhelming. So rather than just necessarily making making up their own situationally stuckness, they will just be completely resistant to coaching by finding themselves overwhelmed, right? These often are the clients who've had to go all in with you, but they're unfortunately they've come from a place of scarcity rather than abundance by doing it, right? So they're a bit very, very nervous, and they're also quite like a lone wolf where they want to be in control. They want to be in control, but they also make themselves out of control by leaving themselves feeling overwhelmed. Like, I'm drowning. I can't, like, this is just too much for me. These are the kind of clients where, like I'll say the key difference here between a flaker and someone who's drowning. A flaker does want to, like, they've shown time and time they want to do it and they will apply themselves at times, right? But the drowning will always find a way to recycle it into some kind of, I'm overwhelmed, I can't do this, right? Whereas the flakers can do this, it's just they show up. They show up in very sporadic ways. The drowning don't even try and show up, right? With the drowning, they honestly just need confidence. These are typically people who just have never had somebody make them realize, like, you can actually do this. Like, they're leaving themselves stuck in this cycle of self-sabotage and avoidance because they just they can't even see themselves actually committing to the plan. They want the outcome, which is why they're here. But it's again somebody who's just fallen so far down on like the work effectiveness and the discipline that like they're not even on dry land. They're not even standing on a firm foot, kind of running around avoiding the goals like a flaker. Like they're just in the water, just kind of like flailing about, right? These people need the confidence. Quite like a lone wolf who needs like somebody to tell them that they've got the potential. But that's the drowning. Consistently emotionally flooded is something that I commonly see with them, right? Now the worst kind of them all, right? These people you don't even want. You want to start them immediately. These are the deflectors. So they're like the flakers and they're like the drowning in the sense that they're going to find reasons to not do it. They're going to find reasons to be overwhelmed, but then they're going to turn the blame on you. They're then going to turn the blame, and you won't find a way for them to make themselves realize they're in a situation where they can turn around for themselves. The protocol for a deflector is an ultimatum, which is change or get out. Change or get out. And honestly, most of the time, you will just make a quick, exit with them because you don't even want to risk how they're going to affect other students. But sometimes you do find a few of those people who do have enough good in them that they can shift it around, right? So that's the six types. That's the six types. And I'll tell you this, with a lot of the companies that I work with, a lot of the onboarding that we do with students now is not about welcome to your program, here's a custom plan for your business or for whatever goal or system you're here to learn. It's like, let's take the first bit of the call to work out what kind of student type you're going to fall into based on your background, your experience, your daily life examples of either your discipline or your commitment to this kind of goals. And we start there because they're the filter. They're the filter that everything else kind of falls through. So that's been one of the funnest things that I've been working on regarding client retention. It's because it's not just how you give people the next step. It's like, what people do you give the next step? Like most times it's the student type that's going to determine if they're going to renew or not, most of them what you can offer them next.
David, let's do a quick analysis. So you worked with, I recently had Leah Bochtler on my podcast.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you worked together with her directly, but maybe let's take her and me as an example and let's break down what we were doing good and what we could have done better.
Yeah. Yeah. So I got to work alongside Leah when I had my own coaching practice before I was even part of Impact Clients. From what I could tell, because I never was her hands-on coach, but she was a go-getter. Like from day one, she implemented what things were laid out for her, right? So she was definitely a go-getter. So it's very hard actually to find fault with her, right? Honestly, I wouldn't say there is any clear faults because as well, she was very new to the whole process, like I was at the time. So yeah, I'd say she definitely fell into the go-getter category for sure, right? Now, I am casting my mind back a little while ago, but when I think of you, I think more fell into the situationally stuck, right? But you still had a lot of elements of a go-getter, which is why you're still standing here today with many things that we worked on, and why I felt good every time I reached out to you with a personalized video, a personalized message, or a voice note, because I knew he is a go-getter underneath all the things that life is kind of throwing at him. So with somebody who's situationally stuck, generally, they honestly just need a bit of performance coaching. And sometimes it's just a balance of like learning their time management better and developing grit. Like when you tell somebody, hey, this program's gonna take you 10 hours a week, very few people think I can just work from 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. 2 nights a week and just grind it out and just have the grit to do it. Rather than think that's 2 hours every day of my week. Oh, this day I can't fit it in because I've got this and this. So yeah, that's what I would say based upon those two scenarios.
That's very helpful. Maybe to give you also a little bit background or context, David. In my case, I had certain periods where I had like bursts of effort. I was doing a lot of DMs and having sales calls, etc., posting content. And what I was doing always consistently was the content part. But what I would say later on throughout the process, because after the summer I was like full-time all in, and
Yes.
then I started the master's program at the University of St. Gallen, and all of a sudden from 12 hours I had like 4 or 5 hours, and I needed to find a structure how to get everything done. And actually Konstantinos, he's the high performance coach,
Yes.
maybe you know him as well, he was very successful. He had like a freebie and I copied his structure, how he would structure his day, so I executed that. And that's something what lacked a little bit. I was not doing as much DMs as I should have done. And if you don't do DMs, outreaches, you don't book as much coaching calls. Although I always had my content game running. And I think that was, let's say, retrospectively, I would have done differently. I would have reprioritized everything, like saying, I start with the DMs to book sales calls and then content, but not the other way around. What are your thoughts on that, David?
Yeah, it's a great thing because I deal with it still today with some people, and it's getting to realize the domino effect, and it's also realize yeah, you can be consistent on these things, but it doesn't really count until you do these things, right? I mean, the great thing is about where I've got to with all of my knowledge in this space is that I can write out like exactly what they can expect down to the time, the metric, the minutes. And so that really, really helps. But I will say with the six, because this kind of goes back to six student types, right? Because you're almost sharing that you actually, yeah, you were mostly within one category, but there was actually signs of maybe being even in the flakers a little bit, where you would, do a little bit of this, but not do the rest of that, right? So anybody who's listening, and even for yourself dealing with any scenarios of students, you always watch out for like, what is their risk category? Where could they fall into? And you always make sure that's addressed and that's always almost like bumped up. So they're always kind of climbing the ladder and not slipping down it. So the biggest thing as well is, I suppose, is goes back to what I mentioned earlier, like doing the reps that because clearly the content didn't hurt to do. Right.
Yeah,
So
that's the
DM
point.
might be first.
Doing
Yeah.
content sometimes was scary, but DMs is really comfortable because you deal with a lot of rejection there.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is, like I've worked with hundreds of setters at this point, and a lot of them have very different experiences of the role. Um, but it's revealed what you're mentioning, and especially everyone knows, anyone who runs a coach business knows setters have the highest churn of any role in their company, right? They have to have the strongest probably culture out of all the other teams to keep their work and their team life interesting because of what they're doing is very routinized. But it's such a perfect example of like what it takes to be successful isn't actually hard, but it's putting up with the boring stuff that other people won't. Like that's what I've learned probably more than anything about success and like what it means to build a successful business. It's like it's not actually doing things that are hard, so to speak. It's pushing yourself through the boring stuff that other people don't have the patience for. So, I mean, the cool thing is developing patience is actually pretty easy in this day and age if you're really, really committed to it, which a lot of people might disagree with me on, but it's like you've got so many ways to practice patience because you've got so many things pulling your attention. So every day you've got dozens of things trying to pull your attention away, which means now you actually have dozens of chances to develop your patience. And that's going to be the key ingredient in most cases because typically, right, something that Alex Hormozy says, which I really love, like volume negates luck. You do enough of it, you do it consistently. It doesn't matter, the background of where you're at, where you're trying to go. It's like doing that is going to help to guarantee where you're trying to go even more. So that'd be my 2 cents on it. Yeah, overcoming the boredom piece is huge.
Appreciate that sharing that with me. You just mentioned Alex Hormozy. I remember you actually recommended his content to me back then, and you opened to me this door of Hormozy content, and this transformed the game because after going through the 3 months of Impact Client, I had my MVP ready basically, the first version of my course, and I made one huge mistake, which was the videos were way too long. And I served people with ADHD, which obviously is quite obvious. You shouldn't do that. They have a pretty short attention span, but I wanted to over deliver like crazy. And then I was going through Hormozy's book and I sat there for weeks or even months, every single morning, first 6 hours of the day at the university, like reading the book and implementing the stuff and completely revising my entire program. And then I had my second version ready. Way shorter videos, way more concise. I transitioned everything to Kajabi, and all of a sudden, people were quite satisfied with the program. So, big thank you again for the Hormozy content. But you helped me as well immensely on that journey. And Hormozy has this quote where he said, "Boring work leads to extraordinary outcomes." And I think the boring work is really, by boring work, he means like sending out the DMs, doing the outreaches, doing the cold calls. I'm soon starting as a setter in the software world. They call it the sales development representative, fancy word for actually a setter. And yeah, there I will do a lot of cold calls, and it's the boring work that will make you successful. That is his argument.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's absolutely spot on. I mean, Alex Hormozy is an easy one to point people towards, and they're going to find huge value, and he's kind of done a fantastic job. So, really, it's kudos to him more so than kudos to me on that one. But yeah, it's really the boring stuff. And so, like if I had to give a daily habit to an entrepreneur to make them more successful, it's like I'd give them something really boring to do every single day. just so they get used to it. So they kind of settle into that mode of like, okay, I'm just gonna have to kind of grind myself through this. But yeah, if they can always envision the outcome, it's pretty easy. For me, that was quite a big thing as well because to do what I've been able to do over the past few years, I've had to sit and focus. And that was actually really hard for me because I've grown up with a pretty big sports background. I've basically done every sport under the sun you can imagine. Some I've done for more than 5 years. And I love just physically moving and physically testing myself. But sitting, you know, luckily I've gotten under the desk treadmill, so I'm not always sitting, but working focused mentally for hours and hours. It took me about 3 years of doing like 50, 60 hour weeks to develop the ability to get through a day without feeling exhausted. Um, but that's unlocked so much. Like the results I've had in the last 2 years compared to the first 3 years are like 4 or 5x. So luckily I've had that experience of yes, the boredom does bring out those incredible results. Um, so yeah, yeah,
By the way, David, are you following still the same routine? I remember you shared back then with me, you're starting your day with going to the gym, and you're while working out, you're planning out your day in your, I think, Google Calendar, presumably,
yeah.
and then you start working for, at that time, impact clients. Is it still the
Yeah.
same, or did you
It's
switch that up?
evolved. It's very much evolved.
Yeah.
So I'm very lucky now to have teams underneath what I do. So I one of the things that I've been able to learn and leverage is theme days. Throughout the week, I've got theme days of what I touch on. So perfect example is Monday is my kind of steering the ship day, where I have pretty much nothing but team meetings all day, because then it means whatever I want to achieve that week, I can just multiply and set the agenda for across the week through all my other teams, whether it's operations teams, student success teams, fellow operators. So luckily, I can predict what each week is going to be like roughly, and the key things I need to hit on each day. And then every week, it's just a case of, am I getting to the more high leverage stuff this week? So the day routine now is I still do a morning workout, but I do it at home. I do like half an hour of just some cardio, some ab stuff, some weight stuff, just get my kind of engine running for the day. I'll start work around 8 a.m. So I'm not quite an early riser as I used to be because I do a lot of work with the US, and then being in Europe, there's not so much point waking up at 6 a.m. if you might be working until the evening hours. But then it's so important to me to get the project work done because the great thing about being a European working with Americans is you can get so far ahead of them because you've got hours in the morning to do your project work, to do your audits and verifications on other work of team members. And then a lot of the time, my day is in the afternoon, just making sure everything is running as we intended the week to go and coaching people through challenges or projects or steps. Um, Evening, I always try to take time out for walks, dinner with the family and stuff like that. And then I'll wrap up my day at the end with like final checks and plans for tomorrow. So it's really gotten to a point where my routine is a huge amount of sharpening my axe rather than just swinging it. And when I swing it, I'm like, who can help me swing it? So I've been very lucky in that fact that I've got the kind of support of assistants and team members and managers under what I do now. So it means, yeah, just I get to constantly challenge myself now on it. Is this the highest leverage stuff I could be doing? And then every day, because I've got an understanding of what I should expect from that day, like Thursday, for example, Thursday is my project day. So it doesn't really matter how much project work I've got done in the mornings, right? By Thursday, everything is running super smoothly, right? Monday, I got things kicked off. Tuesday, I looked at the stuff that I really wanted to get to in the week and make sure that is truly running along with the stuff I need my teams running. Wednesday is honestly just activity day. It's when I need to put in the reps of any activities that I own. I just get done on Wednesday, whether it's calling certain people, whether it's cleaning up certain tracking, whether it's making sure certain structures or processes are just being developed. Thursday is when I go like really high level stuff. So for today, for example, one of the companies that I'm working with right now, client retention is the biggest project I could be possibly working on 100%. So I clear my calendar except for maybe 1 or 2 meetings. And the rest of today, I'm literally going to go through every student who's expiring next month with this company. And I'm just going to watch all of the client journey. When do they join? How is their onboarding call? How is their check-in calls with the student success managers? How much do they actually engage in the platform? At what points was there bursts or was there consistency? I'll watch some of their coaching calls. I'll listen to the most recent calls to kind of work out how warm are they for either retention or removal. And that's gonna be my whole day. Just study, go super deep, be left alone. Everyone in my calendar, it's just going dark day. And then Fridays wrap up and prepare for the next week. Friday, I typically just do a bunch of reporting for all the different teams. This is what we achieved this week. This is what's going to happen next week. I'll report to any of the CEOs I work with on how all the different stuff I ran this week went. So yeah, I've been quite lucky now that I've got leverage in my time and in my efforts. And yeah, I can see ahead by quite a lot now. Like when I was with Impact clients, it was very activity based because it was serving clients and constantly helping move the needle closer to their goals. So every single day there's a little something to move forward, and that just kept rolling day after day after day after day. Now there's bits of that, but nowhere near as much. It's much more project based, much more like big target based for now just a few select companies. And so now I get to kind of have a much broader view of my time. Um, and now my to-do list was quite different every day, but it's themed every day as it goes through the week, and it protects my ability to step back and sharpen the axe again. Like so much of great big work, especially when you're leading teams, is just not being in the weeds with the team, making sure it's good, but constantly elevating the weeds they're in, whether it's improving the systems they work on, the tracking they do, the way they show up to work. So it's a really exciting time for me because it's been a big shift since Impact Clients.
You said one advantage working with US companies is that you have the morning more or less for yourself. You can do project work. Is it that you have a large deep work block early in the morning and then later more shallow stuff working then when everybody in the US is awake?
Yeah.
Is it like that?
Yeah. So I get almost 4.5 hours of time in the morning to work, and I'll dedicate around 2.5 to 3 hours to what I would consider deep work or like project work. And then that last 90 minutes of the day, and in between, I'll go for a walk with the family. I'll make sure we get out, get our vitamin D, get our fresh air. Another section, I'll get a big breakfast in. But that final like third of the morning, whether it's an hour left or 90 minutes left, I will get ahead of the team, and I will make sure I'm just communicating like mad. I'm like giving everyone all the updates. I'm saying all the intentions for the day. I'm asking all the questions on where we've got to with XYZ. I'm scrubbing over the platforms to make sure, hey, we had any issue with the automations? Has there been any client agreements unsigned? Has there been any subscriptions that have failed? Just like the basic sweeps basically over my tech stacks and my inboxes. And then really from there, what my American teams kind of start the day with is like, cool, David has set the tone and set the momentum of the day because he's wanting updates on this. So like, hey, he's noted this, I need to get on top of that. And so I'm ahead of them. Just like I used to be with my clients, I'd be ahead of them. I know their next steps, I know where they should be at. I should be on top of them. I've got that valuable experience, and I can do it for teams that now carry major projects forward for me, which is exciting. And also getting to work with teams it has been a real pleasure. Like working with clients, working with teams is not a very different dynamic, but there's nuances which is really nice. So yeah.
How so?
I would say with teams, you immediately start on more of a personal foot with them. With clients, it's clearly more professional from the outset. You almost need to bake the personal into it. Like any good interview process, especially if you're working with smaller companies, you always just start with a bit of rapport, right? Like genuine rapport as well, because like you want to be working with people you enjoy working with. So super high, do I even like the person? Next, do they even know my industry? Next, do they even know my company? Next, do they even understand the role? Next, what can they bring to the role? It's kind of like trimming it down. So with teams, like it's very easy to build a lovely, warm culture because people have a shared mission from day one. Whereas you can have that with clients, but more often than not, clients also come in with very professional expectations about the results they're going to get. So not a bad thing. Both are appropriate for each scenario, but it does obviously make a bit of a difference.
You quickly talked before about retention, making sure you have a good retention among your clients, I think. What if you can
Yes.
disclose that, what's your churn at that company and lifetime value of the clients? Are you tracking that, or I'm curious?
Yeah. So I'm very proud. So there's one company, the company that I literally got off the call with this morning. Last year they had a 72% retention rate. So 72% of clients who paid anywhere from, I think, 4,800 to 7,700 to coach with them went onto a graduation plan after that initial term. The graduation plans were priced in between 3,600 and 5,500. So we're very proud of that. That has been the company that have been the most hands-on with the client retention. I literally reworked their entire program structure, coaching approach, accountability structures. I built out the whole graduation plans, the sales process for it, the tracking for it. And yeah, we did involve the original founder initially, but now he doesn't have to be involved with the coaching or the retentions. And so we now have built a beautiful back end system that runs completely without the CEO, which is fantastic. Because what it means now is profit margins jump massively. Front end client, right? You have to pay out marketing, setting, sales, onboarding fees, all of that. When you retain somebody, you might bonus the coach who's been serving them for doing such a good job. And so that can easily take a business who on the front end is doing maybe 60% profit margins back up to like 75, 80 when you add back end sales into the mix. The other company that I'm working right now with, where I'm going to study through all their students today, big company. They did around 800K last month. They've got 650 actively paying students who are doing a high ticket price. And they charge anywhere from 5K to 25K every 6 months. And their retention model is really amazing because people join for 6 months and the expectations that to get the ultimate result is going to take a lot longer is set. It's like baked into the process. But there's so much more value. There's so much value you're going to get in the 6 months anyway. You're not going to care, right? When we renew them, we do it for 12 months, and we don't even do really much discounting at all. So when I talk about retentions a lot of the time, I also make some distinctions around there's renewals where you do the same rate. Then there's ascensions where you move them up to higher rates, and then there's descensions where you might move them down. This company is excellent at renewals, but they do it by doubling the length and therefore also doubling the price. And across the company right now, it's about 40 to 45% of people will jump onto the next one. But they've also got 4 different levels. And the upper level has like a 70% retention rate. And the lower level, which is over 300 people are in it, there's no like one-to-one coaching, but still about 30% of them will renew into another term. So the big thing now is I've just worked with that company to install student success managers who are just going to be like the accountability partners of these students, because we want to have a company-wide average of at least 55 to 60% client retention. So yeah, that right now is kind of my key focus professionally. It's client retention, because I think I've gotten to a point where I love working with people who are building new businesses, but what I love more is rewarding people who've already built great businesses and make them amazing businesses. And you can do that with client retention, because you now can get off the constant treadmill of I have to put more calls, I have to take more sales calls, I have to close more people. You can just increase the value of your current clients by making yourself more valuable to them. So yeah, like last year alone with that company, we did over 2 million in client retentions. So we had some months where we did actually more in client retentions than we did in front end sales. And but we can still do so much better, even though the retentions are so high already. Like most companies I work with, they'll have 15 to 25% client retention if they kind of like throw it together and stuff like that. But if they really apply all the frameworks, they can easily get that to like 35, 45. At that company, the bigger one I'm mentioning, we've got one guy who's got one coach. His students retain at about a 90% rate. So there's so much we can apply. I'm thinking they've got 15 coaches though. So we've got the 14 other coaches to train up to those kind of standards. So yeah, before I start rambling, like it's something I'm really passionate about. It's something I really love, because the thing is as well, with all coaching, like you typically need more than the first period of coaching that you're going to undertake to truly transform. So getting clients on board with that, getting the team on board with that, having the systems to support that, it's a lot of fun, and it creates just tremendous value. Tremendous value.
With regards to client retention, I think Hormozi said something like, or asked this question, what would you do if you're never allowed to do marketing anymore?
Yeah. The first step is start to want your clients' results more than them. That's the first step. You gotta want your clients' results more than they do. Because if you can genuinely feel that, and then you can properly portray that through the coaching, through the accountability, through the kind of community culture that you develop, whenever they see maybe your monthly payment or the renewal payment come in, they're gonna feel like it's like this is not a cost to me. This is truly investment that somebody is like manifesting for me. Like when David calls me out of the blue because I've not been on my stuff, like I can't reach these goals without him. So that's like level one. Like yeah, the marketing gods turn everything off for you tomorrow. You've got to care about your clients' results more than they do. So you got to know what those are, why they want them, when they want them. You need to know exactly how they're going to get them. You got to be ready to, you know, I mentioned earlier about how to like think about client onboarding, identify what student you're kind of working with, because that's going to very much help you predict what kind of challenges they're going to need help through. You do those few things, then you do all the extras of like, what do I graduate them into or renew them into? You'll have a very successful client pipeline, but it just starts with that care, making sure you care more than them about the result and that they know it and you have the proper channels to let them know it. So yeah, that'd be my answer to Alex Mosey's question. Care, yeah, just it comes down to care. It really does.
Now, circling back, David, to our initial discussion about impact clients and Richard Yu. Richard Yu has this mantra, how you do one thing is how you do everything. Tell me a bit about what did you learn from Richard Yu and what was it like working with him?
Working with Rich was phenomenal because yeah, it it I he warned me this would happen. I'm pretty sure he explicitly told me this once, but like once you work here long enough, you'll never look at life the same because your standards have shifted to somewhere where most people aren't aren't at, where the world will mostly reflect. And I still have that. Like where I live right now, I'm scratching my head why these businesses close at 5 p.m. because everyone comes out of work at 5 p.m. Right? Like, like, you take lunch hour off and add it to the end of the day instead. Like, come on, like, so that, like the raising of standards is critical because no matter what you do, like you are your own foundation, and you're either going to let things fall through the cracks, or you're going to be solid and you're able to build from everything you learn. With Richard as well, just time management was huge, and time management and energy management is explicitly interlinked. But what a lot of people don't realize is in many ways like money management comes into that as well. Like really getting dialed in on like what is actually generating the outputs to my inputs. And as an entrepreneur, you want to think about that definitely from a financial aspect because otherwise you're going to run out of runway. So you need to be aware of that. But yeah, he was always talking to me about like look, if I look at what you've managed across these hours, across these days, I look at your calendar, I can determine that your time is valued at this much per hour, but this much of your calendar is going to stuff that's not worth that. So how can we start engineering it so that it does? That and then leadership. Leadership, like I studied business management at university. A good third of that was about management and leadership. And if you study that kind of curriculum, you'll learn no one has a set definition on leadership. It's all not necessarily guesses, but it's all just different proposals of what leadership really means. But what I learned from Richard and other CEOs I've worked with recently is leadership is how you lead yourself first. If you can't lead yourself first, you're out of integrity when you ask others to do things for you. So that was big because a lot of the clients who needed more help on the performance side, I knew it's not going to hit home if I'm not showing them that I'm doing it. It's not going to hit home if I'm showing that I'm hitting the gym every day, that I'm doing the deep work, and then I'm analyzing it, the low leverage stuff. Is it still worth my time? Should I think about somebody else doing it for me? So I would say those are probably the three biggest things. Be very much cognizant of how you're being high performance. Is it truly high performance or is it just busy? Leadership is how you lead yourself first. And then, yeah, how you do one thing is how you do everything. Because if you kind of sell yourself out to do only a few things good, right? Like eventually you're going to be mad at yourself for not doing the other things good. Because if you have like, if you've been able to reach an upper level in one way but not in the others, it's soon going to contrast. It's soon going to contrast in your life. Consistency is one of the most beautiful things to have in life. It's one of the hardest things to maintain in life. But if you do, you'll find a confidence in everything you do. And if you don't have confidence in what you do, then little things can break down, right? Just like the student types we talked about, even just your ability to be consistent, right? Like comes from a lot of confidence in the fact that you want to do it, you deserve, you can deserve the abilities to do it. So I would say those are the biggest things from Richard.
Love what you said in terms of leadership. Leadership, how you lead yourself first.
Yeah.
You know, David, I'm currently rereading Beyond Order 12 More Rules for Life, written by Jordan B. Peterson.
Yeah.
And he talks there also about basically the same concept. Like, it's like if you're lying to yourself, it's similar like lying to other people. Like, and yeah, that's a great takeaway.
Yeah.
In terms of Richard,
Mhm.
I saw once a YouTube video. You had like a team event. I think it was in Puerto Rico, right?
Right. He flew me
Tell me a
and
bit about that. Yeah.
yeah, it was a fantastic time. So he was in the middle of moving at that time. So we got to see both of the places that he first lived at and then where he was moving to. He moved from a renter to a buyer in Puerto Rico, so that was a huge success and milestone for him. So it was quite a nice time to be out there for him. And then so he rented us all of a place to stay since he was in transit. But I went out there with the sales director, the B2C director, marketing director, and hang out with him. And it was a really great time because, firstly, whenever you get time off online business, do it in person. It's always a nice change. It's always a nice switch up. Richard really spoiled us with not only giving us an amazing place to stay, but also an amazing agenda. He kept it high performance, right? So we were up at 5 for deep work. We were in bed by 9, but it just bred obsession. Like we were up in the morning, all worked. We were right next to each other. We could share ideas. We'd hit our morning workouts or afternoon workouts. We would go to dinner for 3 hours, just talk nothing except for like how can we keep making impact clients more of a success. So it was a really fantastic time, and he did a fantastic job as well of just bonding us together. So he made sure we left with almost like uniform of like impact clients t-shirts. We all had a matching G-Shock, which meant a lot to him because his first G-Shock, his first watch was a G-Shock his dad gifted him, and yeah, it was a really fantastic time, and yeah, Puerto Rico is also quite an interesting place as well. So I got so much out of the trip, but it was good because probably the biggest thing I got out of the trip was just syncing up properly with the fellow leaders at Impact clients. Because even across businesses have rippling effects. So even what happens in one department is going to ripple into another, even if you sometimes don't realize it. So yeah, fantastic trip. There's a whole YouTube video on it, so you can see the kind of
Yeah, so
workouts he put us through, the kind of hiking and dinners and speeches he gave us, and it was really impactful because I've heard it all online, but there's a different aura to it when you get it in person. When you kind of feel him like looking into your soul, being like, "I want this for you, right? This is what you need to understand. This is what's next for us." It definitely hits differently. And I've been lucky to be in different in-person team meetings since then, and like different trips across the US to like see events and see teams like get together. Something very special about it. Like for most companies, they need it, especially in the scaling stage, because a lot of the time things aren't choreographed properly. Some departments think one thing's happening, another one thinks that another thing's happening, another department thinks we're doing it because of this, when in actual reality we're actually doing it because of this why. So it was really important for those reasons, and it was just a great personal experience as well. Yeah.
one thing that always stood out to me in terms of Richard was his obsession. Other people would call it passion, like
Mhm.
actually more passion about like how fixated he was on the program. That dedication is like you're one of a kind, and also the standards he held himself up to. It's just remarkably interesting to see, and I got into that whole coaching space through his YouTube videos. Actually, I didn't know he had Instagram. I didn't follow him on Instagram. I just followed him for a very extended period of time on YouTube,
Mhm.
and saw there was this famous video going viral of him where he shared his, I think it was called for 4:30 morning routine, whatever, of a college student in the US. I can't
Yes.
remember the exact title.
Yes.
And I
Yeah.
followed his journey, and then I, after a certain period, booked a call, and that made me wonder, how did you got to know Richard? And tell me about, you first had this high performance coaching program. You was actually a student of Richard, and then transitioned into your first job at Impact Clients.
Right. That's right. That's absolutely right. So that's such a cool story. I'm so excited to get into that, to be honest, because it's one of my favorites of all time. Um, but with Richard, one thing I would definitely share is something that I think he and I share, and he definitely helped to install this into me, is that we know that we can do a lot of great things, And so it's so frustrating when we get the basic things wrong, because then it robs us in sometimes in very little ways of our ability to get after the big fish. You know, when your sleep's bad, you've eaten like crap, like you kick yourself, and sometimes you shouldn't, but sometimes you do because you have the mantra of how I do one thing is how I do everything, because it can rob you of getting to the big stuff. And so even now I've like had tough conversations with like personal friends who I'm growing up with, being like, I don't want to hear you talk about this, or I don't want to bother ourselves with that, because I want to talk about level 5 stuff, and like this is like level 1, 2 stuff that should like be in order by now. So yeah, but the journey I had, because you mentioned about, you know, starting my own thing and everything. So I was fascinated by Richard's high performance stuff, because I actually had a routine that was not as intense as his, but in ways it mirrored his routine in terms of the early wake ups, the deep work, the morning exercises. So he released his own high performance coaching program, and I was very fascinated by it. I even checked it out, but I just thought it's too much of what I'm already doing. But then he released the business coaching stuff, and I was like, I feel like this is everything my degree is not actually teaching me. Like, he's literally showing me how traditional business practices that actually have been used consistently across time now translate into the modern world with the leverages of online business and social media. It's like I feel like that's something, that's a gap my degree has not closed at all. So I got on a call with him. I found out he just started enrolling people. I think I was like maybe like the 60th member or something, and it grew into like 3,000 plus members. And yeah, I was on the call with him, just listening, being like, this is exactly what I need. But then, you know, I was new to the space, so I'd never really invest in myself. Like, you go to university, that doesn't even feel like you're investing, right? You're taking out a loan, you don't even see it until you graduate, and when they ask you for the money at the end, right? So I was very scared, because here's the thing as well: the months before I invested was COVID, and I was lucky to actually keep a part-time job that was kind of essential. Um, so I had a little bit of a routine still, but I also spent the last 6 months listening to Dave Ramsey about how you should carefully save and watch every penny. And I was so dialed in with my routines that I was the perfect model high performance, like Dave Ramsey student. Like, yes, I had my routines and everything, but I would like calculate my finances down to the percent, the decimal percentage of how much I saved that month. And then I got on a call with Richard where he mapped out everything amazingly for me. And at the end, he showed me the investment, which completely blew up the last, in my mental models anyway, the last 6 months of like my financial mindset. And I sat there, and he called me out perfectly. He's like, David, you're you're clearly articulate. You clearly are getting yourself to places. Like, you're not dumb, but you're exactly like my dad. You overanalyze things. And I know that because you've asked me so many great questions on this call. Not all of them are hyper relevant, but I appreciate them anyway. But like, you're at a point now where I believe if you leave this opportunity, it's because you've been overthinking it. And he was so right. He was so right. It's like, I really, all the questions I was asking was just trying to layer protection for me. So I invested. I invested the vast majority of my savings, and I was very excited, but very, very nervous. And so I went to bed that night because it was late, right? UK, US time difference, right? And I woke up the next day, bang on my wake time. I think it was like 5 a.m. on the dot, like 5:30 on the dot, and I was paralyzed. I was completely wide awake, but I was like, what the hell have I done? What the actual hell have I done? And not for a second did I think I've done the wrong thing. I just completely shook up like my own nervous system that I was like very nicely chugging along for the past 6 months, nice and safely, nice and comfortably. Yeah, put a little bit of money aside every month. I completely blew that up. And the thing is, I stayed in the exact same position in bed, wide awake for about 6 hours. Just And I wasn't even thinking much. It was just the same. What the hell have I done? And so I finally got out of bed at 11:30. It was the first time in like 6 months I'd broken my routine. I think it was COVID. I had no reason to be out on weekends or anything. So I literally had the same routine every day, 7 days a week for months. And I broke a part of myself that was playing safe when I invested. And then when I woke up the next day, I kind of realized like this routine I'm doing, like it's great. It's solving these level 1 or 2 issues, but I need to then leverage that foundation to go after the level 4, 5 like opportunities. And so I hobbled myself to the bathroom. I gave myself the warmest shower I could, just try to shock myself like to life. Turned it cold as well at the end to really kind of give myself a burst. And then I just sat down and started working. on the program. And the thing is, I was a terrible student at the start. I was terrible because I let that mindset of or that shift like still affect me for quite a bit. I still had a success out of it. Richard was super gracious and made sure that I got coaching beyond my initial 90 days because he could see I was trying. I signed my first clients, I think in the last 3 weeks. So I still got my ROI and everything like that, but it definitely it took me some time to kind of build up that foundation of confidence of like this is a risk, but like it's not really when I've got everything I need. And so yeah, and I loved the high performance stuff, and Richard was very supportive of me going down it. I wanted to do something different about it, so I made it very focused on phone addiction, which then once I kind of help you with that phone addiction, I then get to coach them on the general high performance stuff. But I knew it was such a good hook because every day people on their phone for no good reason. And the funny thing was, I ran that business for about 18 months, and I did pretty well with it. I ran it part time while at university. I used it to pay off my student loans, which was nice. And then I got to the end of university being like, I can go all time in this. I can maybe create different niches out of this. Um, but I was like, I really love what Richard's done. And then Richard, I saw had started to scale a team around the mentorship. So actually, I was going to pitch him on hiring me, being like, look, I'm your avatar. I'm the young guy who looks up to you. I'm at university needing a different way, just like you did. And I had to do this very part-time with university and part-time work as I got things off the ground. So I really know how to help somebody who might be struggling with the fact that they're situationally stuck, they're very new to entrepreneurship. And the day that I had finalized my pitch for Richard to hire me,
Well,
he
tell me exactly what did you do? Was it email or script or?
the thing is, so it was going to be an initial email followed by a whole kind of call. I built like a script of everything of my value propositions and all that. And the day that I planned on sending it, he posted a job posting for the exact role that I wanted with him, the exact role that I wanted with him. And then things from there just fell into a perfect storm. I had, I think, 3 different interviews with the team. Final one was with Richard. And then I think just like 2 or 3 days later, I was told that I was the runner-up for the position. And I was so mad. I was like, what do you mean I was the runner-up? Like, what do you mean? And what I found out was like, no one actually was the winner of the position or got the position, but the person who currently held the position wasn't going to leave for another couple months. So they said they are planning on leaving. This is all planned. It's all been confirmed. It's all been agreed. As soon as they are, you're in. And so I was trying to work out a time frame with them, and they weren't too sure when that might be. And so I was like, I've got 3 holidays planned. I've got one with my girlfriend, I've got one with my family, I've got one with my friends. It's the summer we're graduating from university. It's like, if I have to sacrifice all those holidays to make this position happen, I absolutely will. If they come out back to me next week and be like, Hat, he's found his next role, can you start? I'm 100% doing it. I'm ditching all those plans, all my summer. I'm going all in. The lucky thing was I didn't have to do any of that. I got to go on holiday with my girlfriend, my family, our friends to celebrate graduation. And the day I got back from the last holiday was my first day with Impact clients.
Crazy.
So that was really a stars aligning moment, 100%.
So everything fall into perfectly.
Perfectly.
Like,
Yeah, absolutely perfectly. Mm.
crazy. Okay, so your
Yeah.
entire journey was you followed Richard's content. Was it on YouTube or Instagram or
I came across him first on Instagram actually,
on Instagram?
when he was
Oh,
quite
interesting.
small. And then it was YouTube. And then that was the initial rabbit hole for Richard, right? He had such a fantastic YouTube channel. I spoke to a lot of people. So I have a feeling I might have even heard about him from a friend first. And then that's how I found the Instagram first, then the YouTube. But yeah, yeah.
Interesting. So you got to know him on Instagram, also followed him then on YouTube. You got onto the sales call. He asked you the right questions. That's, I think, an important part of it because that completely, at least in my case, rewired my brain in terms of alternative education options. Like I was really in that, okay, I do my bachelor, my undergrad, then my grad degree. And then I realized, okay, I went through that program and within the first month I enrolled my first 3 client and I did I think 5.5 in revenue, not everything cash collected, but I was like, okay, there's something fishy going on in the let's say normal education system. I'm not denigrating it with any word. I'm very grateful for my education. There's a lot of learnings there, but it just let's say gave me a new perspective of how efficient, how fast can you learn a high income skill that I didn't knew about it before. So, and then in your case, okay, you had your program. and transition to your first role. And then I remember, I think the last time we were in contact was you then got to serve higher ticket or clients that made already 6 or 7 figures in revenue. Is that right?
That's right. So that's when I actually got promoted from just a CSM to an account manager. So when I was
What's a CSM? Quickly.
community success manager. So um, then I got to be an account manager, which is quite a jump. So there's basically inside of a coach business, there's like 3 positions when it comes to fulfillment. There's a CSM who initially is just a guide, right? They can point you to all the right calls. Here's what kind of questions you should be asking. Here's the right resources in the program. Over time, they can become a coach. And a coach is more of not just a guy, but they're actually a living and breathing asset of the program. They have their own expertise, their own experience. So I developed that very quickly. But then when the higher level clients come in, requires to be an account manager. So you are like fully like no one else is responsible for them except for you. So if they have a misalignment of expectations when they first join, you're the one to clarify. If you have to like even change what they were pitched to better match their business, you do that. They have complaints, they have a failed payment, you handle that. It's time to renew them, you renew them. And that allowed me to have, in some ways, my own book of business within impact clients, because I was responsible for all of it. And that was fantastic. That was like the most explicit experience of being an entrepreneur I could have possibly had. So that's how it developed. So you caught me just as I was transitioning from kind of a coach / CSM into a full account manager.
Interesting. By the way, what is Richard doing right now? Just
I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure, but I know he has focused more on a digital product approach. And I believe now he's offering multiple things. So you could either, I believe what he's doing right now is you could either develop your own digital product, and that could be a small online course, or even like he was doing once upon a time, a full-on high-ticket coaching program. That's one path. You are the producer of a digital product, or you could be the seller of a digital product and actually sell something that you haven't actually had to build. Whether you do that through appointment setting, affiliate marketing, Facebook, Instagram pages. So I believe he's gone down almost like a campus model, which I mean, traditional education has done that really well. The most scalable thing they ever created was the campus model, where rather than just having one person you speak to all the time, you have an entire campus of libraries, of lectures, of tutors, and you kind of get to be guided to multiple different classrooms. And that's where also like the high ticket space is going. Rather than just kind of constantly having one-to-ones over and over, which might not necessarily be scalable, it's people who are mastering the campus model is the next period, in the kind of next phase.
Tell me a little bit more about that.
So it's very much typically, right? Somebody who's new to the high ticket space, you should do one-to-ones if you're new to the high ticket space. You want to be super hands-on with the first set of people you're serving, because then you learn all the different kinks that need to scale beyond just the one-to-ones, right? You might scale the one-to-ones to group coaching, for example, or even like small cohort coaching. We might do it in groups of 3 to 5. But what ends up happening with those is you've now absolutely solved a major problem, which is you've kind of decoupled the time for money constraint, which is huge on any business and any person. But if you do it in a small cohort scenario, it's very hard to make sure everyone gets the necessary value, right? And it's also hard for people to get the necessary accountability. So a campus model kind of corrects that, where there's actually almost a flavor of everything available. And so the best one that I know is currently pulling this off is the major company that I'm working with right now at the US. They've got 15 different coaches. They do offer cohort coaching, but they have multiple group sessions a week. And the student success managers who don't do coaching but are the guides, they will plug you into whatever you need so that the value never stops. So it's almost like you have a constant concierge service. And rather than being to a program, it's now part of your membership to a community. And people retain in communities more so than they do in programs. So the more you can make that both cultural and even in best ways you can, logistical shift to be more of a community than a program, people feel more like a member. And that's an important mental shift. But then when you add the extra layers of accountability and somebody who can be like a concierge to make sure they're constantly getting the value they need, constantly getting the accountability they need, and they're not restricted to showing up to the same place every time, that's how you start to achieve a campus model. So it's almost just making sure that almost like the basic level of campus model is you're not restricting somebody to one classroom with one tutor all the time, right? You have the flexibility to visit the lecture halls, various tutors, right? And so that's how, you get a lot of multiplication. But
And you're,
you do need quite an advanced three C's to do that. You need quite an advanced community, quite an advanced course, and quite an advanced coaching suite to pull that off. A lot of companies aren't ready for that. But by the time you're starting to hit multi six figures a month, you should start developing your fulfillment model towards that.
so community is an important aspect of this, of the three C's: coaching, community, and course
Classroom. Yeah.
or classroom. Sam Ovens founded a few years ago school.com, which is, I think, right now the new Facebook for communities. And they
Yeah.
have, I think, the retention rate is crazy, the user growth is crazy. What are your thoughts on that?
Schools, yeah, I think if you're new to the space, school is absolutely fantastic. However, I would actually say there's actually a better platform out there, and it's called Circle Communities.
Okay.
And Circle Communities is more of a community hosting platform than a program hosting platform, but it does have all the features necessary to host curriculum, coursework. You can tick off completion rates and things like that. But it's an excellent community platform. It almost functions like a social media, and it's very accessible in terms of you almost it's almost like a combination of like Instagram meets Kajabi, right? And they've
Okay.
actually just installed AI agents into the platform. So now there's 24/7 chat support where you can ask somebody, I'm dealing with this problem. And the agent can point you towards, well, this is the upcoming event that's going to be relevant to you. Here's some past recordings that might be relevant to you. Here's the classroom. And we're actually trying to build AI, our own AI on top of this. Where it's even like, here's the coaches you should reach out to and speak to about these issues. But you still get a lot of value with Circle Communities as it is. It's also much more customizable. So you can do a lot more branding on your Circle platform. You're not restricted to just 4 tabs either, like school does. So I've got to shout out Circle Communities because they're amazing. They're really, really amazing. But school as a whole is a fantastic place to start. If you don't have experience handling clients in a community, you want to start with school 100%, and then explore Circle, especially as you take on maybe higher ticket clients and more of a community model.
Oh, okay. So for listeners, circle.so, you can look that up. Interesting. So starting with school, then maybe transitioning to Circle.
Yeah.
Okay, good to know that one. I want to talk to you a little bit more about building a coaching business, and maybe we can distinguish different stages, starting out and then 6 figures, 7 figures, etc. Maybe before one quick thing, Jeff Bezos said something like, if you double the number of experiments you do per year, you're going to double your inventiveness. And my experience was when I created my first coaching product through the Impact Clients program or High Performance Influencer program, it was like I'm like my first version ready. And what you taught me was go for the Uber approach. Like you start with a scrappy first version, your minimum viable product, and then you got a feedback from your clients and you improve it. And that's exactly what I did. And I did a lot of experiments and I tried to improve the program. Now, building up on what I just said, what do most people get wrong when starting a coaching business? Now, day one, basically, and then we can later talk about different stages.
They don't know how far they want to take it. That's the first problem, and that also is coupled very strongly with they don't know their true goals for it. So they kind of lack just like, again, like what I want to get out of this, where do I want to take it, but they also don't understand just how far it can go. That's a big issue when you're a beginner. Because I'll tell you this, there's basically one offer that I would like to do for myself that follows a very traditional approach of kind of coaching business creation. But I would tell you this, besides that, I would want to make sure that any other offer I produce could grow to the point of where it could have enterprise accounts. So I've grown not just from getting my own clients, I'm now plugging into major businesses that want in-house coaching companies. And I'm working with 2 right now that do that, or at least have the potential for that. So one of them right now is business coaching for real estate agents across the United States of America. They have just signed a top 10 mortgage company to be their in-house coaching company. And so for them, they provide literally, I think, like 2 masterclasses a month for that company, but they're allowed to invite people to book calls to actually have hands-on coaching. And the company endorses the coaching company. It actually has given them a hot list of 300 people going, these are our best guys. We'd actually pay for their coaching if they want to do it. And for everyone else, give them 15% off. And in the first 2 months of having that enterprise account, this company of coaching has made over $500,000. And the close rate on the people who just want potentially discounted coaching, like 15% off or so, I think is the deal that was made. The closing rates are about 52%. So more than half of people actually end up joining. And it's so easy. And it's so easy. So that's highly qualified leads, pre-endorsed by both their company and also incentivized by us because they get to come and have master classes and everything. Another space that I work with is in the trading space. There you have what's known as prop firms, where if you're a really good trader, you can prove it. Prop firms will actually give you capital to trade with, so you can have more upside and they can actually share in it. The company I'm working with right now is developing partnerships with prop firms so that their traders who are already being given capital, they've already been trusted with hundreds of thousands of dollars to trade with, can now get coaching, maybe even at a discount, so they can be even better. That is such a massive scalable lever that just most people, A, don't know about in the coaching space, or B, don't think about. So if I was going back to day one, and if I was being like really critical, like I want to, and I had big goals for myself, like this is really if you've got big goals, I want like a big 8-figure, 9-figure coaching company. I need to do it in an industry where there's big companies that already exist that would pay for my coaching eventually. Once I'm proven, once I can offer them something worth their time. So that would be almost like the first criteria that I would apply at this point in time, because they can double your business overnight by one deal. And then your sales team has an easier time, your phone has an easier time. It's magical. So I would start there. I would really think if I'm going all the way with this, rather than just maybe having something small that I'm trying to automate, maybe delegate out, I need to grow to a point where big companies can see me too.
One of my professors once said, the gold is to be found in B2B. And that really stuck with me because I did the initial mistake of serving, or it was not a mistake, it was a learning in the end, serving B2C clients, which is also very interesting, but you can charge less money and I would say on average, perhaps a little bit harder to work with. Not all, because also B2B clients can be quite hard to work with, but the money you can charge is in a different sphere in B2B. Yeah. Like if I'm thinking of certain B2B SaaS companies or software companies charging 100, 200, or even $1 million a year for, let's say, the software license, that's crazy, you know? And okay, so enterprise clients, that's one of the things. By the way, do you have any ambitions maybe in the future, will you start your own company, David? Is that on your roadmap?
Yeah, so I right now I'm working with 3 to 4 different companies. And so I'm fulfilling almost like a fractional COO role for each of them. I love it. I really love it. The CEOs I get to work with are phenomenal people. The teams they lead, the offers they provide, the quality of experience they give to the clients, and the results, insane. But I'm getting to the point where I'm like, it'd be nice if I'm my own CEO and I can move everything really at my own pace rather than having to necessarily coordinate it every time that I have to roll out an initiative. So right now I'm leaning on making client retentions, the first offer that I truly run. I actually bought a domain recently for that called keepclients.io. I was like, what am I actually doing when I'm doing client retentions? Keeping clients. So just keep clients, keepclients.io. So that's what I'm working on right now in the background. And luckily I've got a lot of case studies to show with that. Like I was an account manager who achieved some months 80, 90%, sometimes even months 100% retention rate with expiring clients. Last year we did about 2.2 million in client retentions across multiple businesses. And I really like it because again, it makes great businesses amazing for both the clients and the operators. So I get to work with advanced people. And client retention absolutely has enterprise potential as well. Because every business could use more lifetime value, right? So that's where I'm kind of trending towards. But I've got a lot of people in my network who would love to work with me on a publishing model where we constantly help creators create big offers. One I'm working with right now is going to be actually in the financial advisor world. where we've managed to connect with a guy who's runs a very significant financial practice. They manage hundreds of millions for their clients, and actually quite a small, lean team. And they've done it in the span of 7 years. And so, and they're also well regarded in the industry already. So, helping them with their brand, getting more financial advisors' attention on them, publishing those kind of offers and helping them scale, like that's always going to be really fun to do. But I'd love to potentially just own an offer for myself, for sure. So yeah.
I would love to stay in touch with you in regards to that. Maybe we can, after the podcast, quickly talk about that. Oh, but that's off topic.
Yeah.
Now, switch topics. Quickly switch topic. Maybe in another conversation we can tackle the 6-7 figure, like the skills of those entrepreneurs. Something I want to talk to you is, I remember, I think it was back in 2022, David, you told me you attended a Jordan B. Peterson event, right?
Yeah,
and it's kind of funny because I just traveled last weekend to Amsterdam to see Peterson. Unfortunately, he rescheduled the event for 2026. We anyway went then to Amsterdam, had a good time there.
Oh, wow.
But nevertheless, how was the event? And tell me a little bit what you learned at the event and also beyond from Peterson, because I think he was one of the online mentors I'm having right now, or I'm following for a very extended period of time.
Yeah.
Who had a profound impact on my life. What are some of the learnings you got from him?
So number one, he's way smarter than you think.
Oh, really? Smaller or smarter?
But smarter.
Smarter. Okay.
No, he's nice and tall. He's quite lanky, as we'd say.
Yeah.
So he's tall and skinny, but great suits. But he's smarter than you think. Like, if you had a day with him where you just a day with him, the best thing you could probably do is just like ask 3-word questions and just let him run for hours on end. Like, the depth of his lectures compared to his videos are surreal. Because I've probably watched the majority of the interviews that are out there with Jordan Peterson in the lead up to the event, and I was friends with him for years. Then I went to watch him speak, and it was just a whole new level. It was a whole new level. I suppose in terms of tactical takeaways, the one thing that he's been very good at gifting me through his lectures is second order consequences. So how you do one thing that bleeds into another, right? I watched a great video on this because my brother-in-law is a big watch fan. He's a big watch fan. And I know a lot of people like to get into watches because they think it's going to help them with networking. Because, you know, it's a conversation piece, or it's a little bit of a status piece. But then for it to be seen by the right people, you then have to go and spend money at very expensive places. And then your watch might mean nothing to those people in that place. And then you've shelled out all of this to not even network. So that's kind of one example I saw recently online, which I found very funny. But yeah, second order consequences is huge about what Jordan Peterson talks about as a whole. And the thing I'm biggest fan of is I've grown up as a Christian guy. I've grown up with a Christian family. I was born in the Middle East because my parents were Christian missionaries there for quite some time.
Where in which country?
I was born in Lebanon.
Beirut. Wow, okay.
Yeah. And I've got 2 older sisters who were born in Jordan.
Oh, really? Okay. Wow.
Yeah. And I loved his series on dissecting the Bible because when I grew up, I didn't understand a lot about Christianity. I didn't understand the faith piece or the relationship with God piece. But then what helped me to kind of recapture a relationship with Christianity was watching his lectures that break down the Bible and show you how everything actually has a very deep psychological significance, even if you just completely disband with any of the major religious or faith-based parts. And you just look at it purely like, what does this tell us about human psychology? Wildly powerful. And I was very lucky with the fact that he talked about that quite a bit at the lecture as well. But yeah, like that's probably been the biggest takeaway from the lecture. But people see him as like this smart guy. And he is very smart, but like you don't know how smart until you're in the room, just letting him play off the ideas. Like I might even have some notes from the talk. It was a while back and everything, but I'm quite keen to see quickly if I maybe have some.
So
yeah.
Mainly 3 takeaways. The first one being nth order consequence or second order consequences. I think also Sam Ovens discussed this in one of his old videos where he said like, yeah, when when X happens, also consider the epsilon and so on and so forth consequences. It's
Yeah.
like if you eat today, let's say junk food, you will have brain fog tomorrow, but also beyond that, you will maybe die earlier and you will maybe develop some, God forbid, that will not happen, but you will
Yeah.
develop some diseases, maybe whatever, diabetes, etc. That's an
Yeah.
interesting one. Second one being biblical learnings, or he has a
Uh,
lot of lectures about the biblical interpretation, where he
yeah.
talks, I think 2 hours about the first sentence of Genesis.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
crazy. Incredibly valuable, and also how smart he is. That's an interesting one. I would actually, from my perspective, I can't think of a more smart person than he is. But if he's even more smarter than that,
Yeah.
that's an interesting one.
It's yeah, because when I think he's he's also a very self-aware person, right? So much of what he has been able to speak about, he's been able to do through a lot of experience. Like he's done clinical therapy for hundreds, if not thousands of hours, right? So um I think he's also developed a really good filter. So when he speaks on podcasts and interviews, he makes sure that he really addresses the person he's speaking to. Um, and no insult to the people speaking to him or interviewing him, but I feel like that has a huge effect on the way he answers questions. And then when you go to watch him do a lecture where he's leading the whole conversation rather trying to ask someone else to lead the conversation, um, you get a very different experience of it. And yeah, it's wild. Be prepared to take notes. Be prepared to take notes whenever you go. And the one thing that's really nice though is that it's the experience of Jordan Peterson, if I could describe it, is he takes you down these massive rabbit holes and then he brings it back up to the surface and makes such clean and simple conclusions. But you feel like Alice in Wonderland. You feel like he's taken you down here, shrunk you here, put you up against this, made you wrestle with that idea, and then you understand it at such a profound level. Once he brings you back up to the surface of it all, and you're left with this sensation of like I've gone through heaven and hell to learn this, even though it's such a basic thing. And if you have the memory to capture the roller coaster ride he kind of intellectually puts you through, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
Interesting you're bringing that up. When reading his books, 12 Rules for Life or Beyond Order, that's exactly what happens every single time. And also listening to his podcast, you don't know where he's going and what point he tries to make, but in the end, he always condenses it, or he brings it together, gives you a clear takeaway or conclusion. And
Yes.
maybe something worth mentioning here in terms of his lectures, what he's trying to do, and for listeners who are not familiar with his work, he's asking himself up front, hey, what do I don't know, or what answer do I want to whatever question, like a genuine answer. And then he tries to answer that question on stage. And
Yeah.
he don't know where it goes, and hopefully he find a clear end. And I think in most cases this actually happens then,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. It's phenomenal to listen to and watch. I'll be honest, I haven't watched this stuff recently because I've gotten to a point now where I'm being very ruthless with the information I take in. I want to like I'm in a beautiful position where I have all the right opportunities in front of me. I just need to execute. So, but I know my ability to what's got me here has been absorbing that information into my actions. Um, it's really. Have you been able to? So, will you be able to go back to Amsterdam to see it in
Yeah,
20?
most likely we'll go back to Amsterdam in 2026 February. I think it's rescheduled for the 8th of February. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, good. I'm glad you're not going to miss out on it fully because it's a hell of an experience. And yeah, if you've binged his stuff like I have, you're still in for such a treat. Such a
Oh,
treat.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm and we also booked the meet and greet, by the way. So
Oh,
it was not that expensive. I think it was maybe $200 per person. So I thought, okay, that's more than,
yeah,
that's a once in a lifetime opportunity to talk
exactly.
directly to him.
Have you worked how we're going to ask him?
Yeah, I wrote down two questions. I think, yeah, two questions I wrote down. Can't, maybe I remember them. Have them on my phone. I think one was about the value of the size of marriages in different cultures.
Mm.
Because my girlfriend is Serbian, And in Serbia, you have quite large weddings with, it depends a little bit, but let's say 100 to 400 people, on average a little bit larger, as opposed to Switzerland, where it's a little bit smaller. My question was simply, what's the value about having a smaller or bigger wedding? This was something, and then the other one I forgot. But yeah,
Like, that's really interesting.
I
Yeah, yeah.
just was curious about in the moment. Thought, okay, maybe it's worth asking that because don't know the answer.
Yeah. I like that too, because I mean, weddings are quite a significant cultural thing.
Yeah.
Like, it resembles so much about somebody's life and somebody's community and somebody's culture. So, yeah. And I've got to see a few different, like, I got to go to India a few years ago, and you,
Oh, okay, yeah. Then
no matter where you go in India, you're going to eventually pass a wedding, and it'll be like day three of like these 1,000 people enjoying it. So, very interesting. Great question.
so David, we're almost at the end. To respect your time, but
Thank you.
maybe two last questions. The first one being, I've seen you recently, or you recently became father.
I did.
You're the father to a daughter, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Tell me about what what changed since becoming a parent. What was the experience like, and maybe also how did you prepare for it?
Yeah.
Becoming a father.
So I think any parent will tell you, it doesn't matter much how you prepare. As soon as you're in the room, all of it goes out the window. Me and my fiance, we did like 12 weeks of prenatal classes and even doing some in-person classes and stuff like that. In the end, we stayed in hospital for like 3 days after the birth, even though we were perfectly happy because the staff just wanted to make sure we left with confidence. And we were like, we've got no idea what's happening. Like we've done all this, but we don't know. So you get thrown into it. You get absolutely thrown into the deep end. But I'm usually quite comfortable with that. I'm very open to all of life's experiences, so I'm not really intimidated by new things or all of that. When my baby daughter came out into the world, I cried. A lot of the tears were honestly from my fiance, who I was just so proud of. Like we had I think it was like 48 hours of early labor. So she had hundreds of contractions at that point, hundreds and hundreds of contractions, and then literally half an hour of active labor. So very intense. It went from really long drawn out, exhausting her, to then suddenly she had to pull it all together and make it happen, and she did. Um, so yeah, it throws you into the deep end, but it's a beautiful experience. The how it just immediately deepens your relationship with your partner is huge. I would say more than anything, the quality of life right after birth is heavily dependent on the man's patience. On the
Hmm.
man's patience.
How so?
Because by the time your baby is born, you've probably been up for the last few hours or so. You're now dealing with this little noisy thing who's the softest thing you've ever felt. And baby skin is the softest thing on the planet. It's adorable, it's amazing, but it's going to rob you of every chance you have to sleep. It doesn't matter if you're used to sleeping only a few hours and going for a long period of time. It will find a way to get into that. It will test you. You'll have these little bursts of frustration within you, your ability to restrain those and just be like, no, I'm hearing that I might be 36 hours without any sleep or any proper water. I might be in an overheated hospital that doesn't even have a bed for me, but like, so be it. And the support for your partner, I think it might have been the adrenaline, but like for the 3 days that we were in hospital post labor, nothing was wrong. We just wanted the support of the staff, and they were amazing with them. We were lucky to have it. But I just changed every nappy. I was like, every time baby needs something, I'll be the first to do it. My fiance can sleep, she can rest, she can cuddle baby, and then everything else I'm going to take care of. If I didn't do that though, like my fiance was basically immobile after the pregnancy because she was just in so much pain. Her body's so exhausted. She wouldn't have been able to do it without me. And my patience completely determined the quality of my support and the experience of my support. And I've been able to push through all the sleepless nights. I've been the one waking up in the middle of the night to change baby, feed baby, whatever, stored up milk we have for it. And that's forced me to bond very early on, which I I don't think was going to be ever going to be my experience of like missing out on bonding in the early stages. But I know for a lot of dads, as I hear this, that some dads struggle in the beginning stages because it's like a baby who's very mum dependent. But there's still a massive amount you can do, but it comes down so much to to your your ability to be patient with the situation. Because right now, whenever my daughter needs, well, think about it like this, right? I'm somebody who dials in every basically 10 minutes of my day. I'm always very conscious of on to the next thing, right? With my daughter, though, right now, a nappy change, some burping, some feeding, back to maybe a nappy change after that, that could easily be an hour. Sometimes it's 20 minutes. But so it means my I can't be as dialed in as I am with my work, which is such a big part of my life because I love my work. So yeah, the patience. So I'm very glad. I'm actually so glad that I'm not somebody who scrolls a lot on my phone, who plays video games. 'Cause I know those things absolutely shoot down your patience capacity. And because of that, me and my partner are in the most deepest loving state of our relationship ever. And I just feel it so clearly. Like if I lacked patience at any point, and that exhibited at any point, stress, unsettledness, I would have shot such beautiful opportunities to bond instead. And instead, me and my partner have become this incredible tag team of just randomly just jumping. No, let me deal with that. Like the times that I'll just jump in, I won't even think about it. I'll just jump, and I don't know where it even comes from. I'll be honest. Like usually, I'm very measured with everything I do. But if I'm like, sometimes I just sense, oh, baby's crying again. That's like the third time. I don't even think about it. I jump in. I take baby from fiance, be like, you chill. Like I'll take care of this one, and she'll do the same for me at times. Or other times it's like she's taking care of baby. I'll just go grab her a snack or a drink or like whatever I can do, just so the amount of effort we're both putting in is just as gentle as possible. So that's been my experience. Like, yeah, like anyone who's thinking about having kids, especially as a guy, like everyone needs your support way more than you think. You might think, oh, the baby just needs its mum and all that. No, no, no. And it's your patience because, yeah, you will lose out on sleep. Every chance you get, the baby might find some way to interrupt it, and that can really frustrate you. Even though it's the love of your life, right? Like you're human. You're going to be absolutely dead, sleep exhausted. That does crazy things to people. Your patience is the number one factor that's going to determine how nice the experience is for everyone around you.
Love that takeaway. And huge congrats on your daughter. It's beautiful
Thank you.
to
Yeah.
hear that, man. Two
Yeah.
quick follow-up
Yeah.
questions. Did you took time off from work in the initial days? Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So
Uh,
I took off a full 10 days.
Full time.
My
Okay.
team offered me up to a month. But the thing is, I love my work. And after 10 days, I found still some time in the day where I was like, baby's just sleeping. My fiance's catching up on sleep. I'm just kind of sitting here twiddling my thumbs. I might as well just hop back on for a few hours and just help out. And I love that. And my team has been so supportive, but I made sure I made sure I need at least more than a week. There's no way I'm going to just do a week. I'm so glad I did. It gave us more chances to just get used to baby, have family around to meet baby and everything. So that was super important. And it the paternity leave as well that I got, it just gave me the time to think about how am I going to move forward after paternity leave. And so I've shifted my routine a little bit more around family now. And it's been no detriment to my work, but it's been nothing but upside for my personal life. So every morning, I've got a routine of how to take care of my daughter first thing, then wake up my fiance, and then how we go for a walk right before I jump into the American time hours where I'm going to work with my teams and everything, how we have evening time together. So yeah, yeah.
You said something beautiful before we started the recording, that becoming early a father, that would something. Yeah.
Yeah, I said if somebody told me how good fatherhood it really was, I probably would have done it earlier. I know I'm only 25, so I'm young for the culture of having kids at the moment in time, and I could totally see why. But fatherhood is the greatest thing. Like I cannot wait to teach my daughter, raise my daughter, coach her through stuff in life and everything. Um, and the lack of sleep doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. Sure, there'll be times where you can feel it physically affecting you, but as soon as you look at your baby, it just dissipates. It doesn't matter. And because I've been a fan of people like Jordan Peterson, I think I've ended up with a strong orientation towards meaningful things in life, and fatherhood is the most meaningful thing. It's been the most meaningful thing for me in my partner's relationship so far. It's the most meaningful thing that happens during my day, during my nights. And yeah, I want to have quite a few kids. And my fiance wasn't sure about that at the start. She's like, oh, we might have just a couple. But now she's seen one kid. She's like, okay, I see what you mean. I see what you mean. We should have a few. So yeah, fatherhood really is the greatest thing. It really, really is. I can't wait for all the years to come of it.
Beautiful. Beautiful, man. What's next for you, David? And where can people find you online?
So you can definitely find me online through Facebook, Instagram. I'm not on YouTube yet, but that's one of the projects that's going to be in hand with Keep Clients. And in terms of what's next, Keep Clients is something that's very much on my mind. I've got 3 playbooks built right now of how to even build a client retention process. That gets to about 35% retention rate, maybe sometimes even higher, right? Next one is how to build an engaging program that throughout continuously sells them on their confidence and trust in use. By the time they reach that retention process, they're good to go. You can increase your retentions even above 50% at that point. The last one is the account manager playbook of how do you have the team that just runs that, whether they run the retentions for you, or how do you coordinate maybe that with the sales team. So I've had every weekend I've been putting hours into that because I just love it. So I'll keep developing that. I'll keep developing the companies that I work with right now because I'm doing stuff for client success and for operations and for leadership and for sales teams. And besides that, honestly, get back to the gym more. I've gone so deep into work this past year and it's been so good for me, but I've missed out on a lot of the physical side of life, which I've really missed. And I want to take my baby to the gym with me so she can see me and her mom working out and have that as like a standard of the family. I'm just raising my daughter, and in the next year I will move to the States as well. It's something that I've had.
Oh, really?
Yeah, absolutely. I've had
man.
for quite some time, and now I've got literally hundreds of connections in the States, and I've got dozens of people being like, when you come, stay with me in Florida here, or stay with me in Chicago here, or in Texas there, or in Scottsdale or California. So there's a lot, man. States, launching offers, building the teams that I'm currently building, raising a family, keeping myself fit and healthy. And I suppose I have to revisit some Jordan Peterson stuff as well, because it's always a good thing to revisit. So yeah, and just watch out. I'll be branding quite soon, so more content from me. And the cool thing about what I'm doing is I get to follow the Axel Moseley model, where I get to give everything about building a coaching business completely away for free. So then I create the people who are like, oh, I built it now. Now how do I keep my clients? So I'll just do the whole Moseley model, and I'll make sure everyone gets a lot of value out of it. So yeah.
Hey, so glad to hear that, man. And wishing you all the best for that time coming. And thanks for being on the show. And I'm looking forward to round 2, man.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you as well. It's been an absolute pleasure. Great questions as well. And you'll have to update me when you get your chance to see Peterson.
Sure. That's for sure.